everyone, welcome back to my channel, Designs by Dana. I'm Dana and I'm a close to my heart maker, and I'm working on a tag that I made, and I thought it turned out really cute, and I thought I would share it with you, and then we would just make a little card with it. So this is the tag I cut out, and I cut that out using my Build a Tag thin cuts. Use this one here, and you'll notice it's a little bit smaller. It was a little too big for the card that we're going to make, so I just trimmed it down with my paper cutter here. So this is the Buildable tags. I think I said Build a Tag, thinking Build a Bear, but this is Buildable Tags Z4106 thin cuts. So this is what I'm going to work with. I'm going to bring in some scrap paper. We're going to work with the Dream Maker paper pack and stencils. This is the May National Scrapbooking Month special, and these are the two pieces of the stencil that I'm working with. This came part of a 12 by 12 stencil that I cut down into smaller workable pieces. So I'm going to work with these. I've got some inks here too, so I'm going to start with the Periwinkle inks. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to mask off part of this tag to start with. So I'm going to turn it sideways, and I'm going to use my grid on my Versamat to kind of help me line everything up. And I'm going to mask off about a ½ inch on each side here. I'm just going to tape that off. And then, let's get that taped off real quick. And then I'm going to pull it back up to my scrap paper here. And I'm going to bring in a stamp. This is the stamp set that also came with that Dream Maker bundle. And it's got lots of fun sentiments here. And then this side I really love. I've got this beautiful flower. And this is the stamp I'm going to work with right now. And we're also going to use some of these others, but right now I'm going to focus on this little scripty stamp. Let me go ahead and pull in my cushion as well. And I'm going to stick that underneath my paper here. And I'm going to stamp this script down the center of that section of the tag that I've got masked in. So I've masked off the section that I don't want the stamping on. And then I'm going to just stamp down the center of the tag. So let me pull that just a little bit closer to myself so I can see it. I'm going to try and line this straight up so I don't get everything real crooked. I'm just going to kind of line it straight on the Versamat and try to get it somewhat straight. And the stamp is really tiny, but I'm trying to take a peek here and see which way I think the words are supposed to go. I'm gonna stamp it off. There we go. It's easier to read that way. So I'm just going to, I think I'm gonna start at the bottom and line up the words and just stamp that right on top there, and you can see that my tape will mask that off. And I apologize, I'm gonna have to get closer. I hope I don't get my head in here, but if I do, I apologize, but I just want to line that up as best I can and stamp that off. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this tape off, and I'm going to basically reverse my process. We can get this cushion out of the way. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to reverse the mask. So I'm going to cover up my stamped portion and expose the white section. So I can get that straight. I think I'm going to use my Versamat again just to get everything nice and straight. So now I'm just reversing that process here. And I want that white part to be exposed. So with that white part, I'm going to bring in my stencil. I can just tack that down. This tape is really good for removable items like that. And let's see, I'm just going to kind of play around here with the stencil and see how I want it positioned. I don't really want to do anything too fancy. Maybe like that. Okay, so let me bring in my ink, and I'm just going to tack this down as well so it doesn't go anywhere on me. And I'm using the Close to My Heart blending brush, and I'm just going to quickly go over that stencil spot. What I love about the stencils in this set, and really you can do this with any stencil, but the stencils in this bundle work so well together. They're great for layering on top of each other. So that's what we're gonna do here. I'm gonna get these leaves down real quick, and then we're gonna come back on top of the leaves. There's a little spot down here. And we're going to layer this stencil. So I've got the leaves down here, and we'll lift that up. Isn't that beautiful? This periwinkle color is relatively new color for Close to My Heart, and it's so pretty. And now I'm going to, obviously I don't want this to be straight, so I'm just going to angle that stencil on here, and then I'm going to come back in. I'm going to use the same color. You can obviously use different colors, but I'm going to come back in here with this grid stencil and come right back on top of the leaves. And here I did kind of heavy with the leaves, and here I'm going to go a little bit lighter with the grid, and this will give my tag just a little bit more visual interest and visual texture to it. So I don't need to go too dark, but the other thing is I like to go darker in some spots than others. So I'm just going to kind of skip around and darken it up in certain spots. And that's really it for the stenciling. So I can remove this tape and get that stencil out of the way. And then we're going to remove this tape. And I have a really neat looking tag here that I can play with. Now, as I looked at the tag, one of the things that I liked about it was the two different tones here, but I felt like it needed more separation between my, inking and the print. So I cut me a 1/8" strip of cardstock. And so I'm just going to cut that in half. And I'm going to come in here with my really fine tip glue. And I'm just going to bring my glue right along that line here. And we're going to glue this cardstock down and give that a nice clean separation. So again, I'm going to use my Versamat, which if you don't have one of these, I highly recommend it, because now I can just line this up and pop that down, and I get a perfect straight line. And I can do the same on this side. And I really like how that gives me a nice little separation there. And notice how I've got these hangovers, but that makes it just so easy to just turn over now, and I can snip these off. And then for the last little step here on the inking part, of course we've got some more pieces we're gonna do. I'm gonna come in with a sponge, and I'm gonna go ahead and ink all of my edges just to continue on with my little somewhat of a distressed look. Those of you that watch my videos and know my style know that I love to ink my edges of my papers. So I'm gonna just finish that up. And there's the distressed part and the inking part of the tag. Now the other thing that I want to do with my tags, I'm going to pull in the rest of my papers here, is put the little topper piece on the tag. So with that thin cut set, you've got this little piece here which makes it really fun to decorate your tags. And I went ahead and pre-cut that, and I can just stick that right on and it fits perfectly. So super, super simple. And then a wise person once told me that you should never leave your tag naked. So we're just going to cut a little bit of this mink twine. And it's interesting because this is the kind of the slit opening. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to string this through a couple times to give it a little bit of a unique tie on the tag. I'm going to weave it through, and I like the way that this looks on here. I think I'm going to go one more time through. You can do this as many times as you want, but I really like how it gives that look here at the top of the tag. And then I'm just going to tie it in a knot at the top. And hopefully you can see what I'm doing on camera there. So there you can see I've got that little woven through spot. And then I'll just tie it in the normal, little bit of a knot here. And then my tag will be complete. We can move on to complete the rest of the card. Okay, so that completes my tag. And we'll trim this down once we're ready to actually put it on the card, so it trims down to fit the card just as we need it to fit. So let me get this out of the way. And I want to bring in the card base. And these are some of the other pieces that I pre-cut in advance and knew that I was going to use for the card. And then I also wanted to add some flowers. So I have these flowers that I put on my blocks, and this is also from that stamp set that I mentioned. And I'm just going to use some scrap of the White Daisy cardstock that I have on hand, and I'm going to quickly stamp those. And I will have to fussy cut these out. Oops, I only need one of those. I will have to fussy cut these out because there is not a die cut that coordinates with these. So I'm going to do those off camera real quick, and then I'll come back and we'll put everything back together. Okay, I got those fussy cut out real quick, and then I'm going to also bring in some additional inks here. I've got my Periwinkle again and my Flamingo. And with my blending brush, I'm going to add just a little extra color to those flowers, and I want to just tap that off to make sure I don't get a big splotch in the center of my flower. But I'm just going to add a little extra color here. And I like this softness in adding colors to flowers, because it's just another way to add color to your flowers without a lot of ink or marker, and it's very subtle, and it's quick and easy as well. So there's a little tip for you. And let's add some Flamingo. These little guys here. Oh, that one's bright. Let's do one really light and a little darker one. Okay. These out of the way. Now for my card pieces, I've got a couple scraps here that I've cut. This piece is going to go down here. One of the things I've been trying to do lately is use tools in my scrapbook room I haven't used in a long time. So my corner rounder is one of those things that I don't think to use a lot. So I've brought it in, and I'm just going to corner round this one piece just to give it a little bit extra, again, variety in the way that this particular card is going to look. So I'm going to put this one down, and it's going to go right here in the center. Make sure I try to get it straight. Sometimes it's a little bit harder when I'm not right on top of my project. Now, before I start layering too much here, I want to come in and do a little bit of a doodle line around my card. So you see I have all this white space here. So I'm going to do that with a gray pen. And I am, sorry, it's hard to talk and do this part at the same time because I don't want to mess up. But I'm just trying to keep my wrist fairly straight and drag my arm down. Again, I'm not trying to do a real straight line, or I would use a ruler, but I also don't want it too out of control. And I'm just connecting those lines in the corners, so that looks perfect. Okay, so now I want to add this piece, and before I do that, I'm going to do a little bit of inking on it. Just because it's kind of gets washed out a little bit against that white. So I'm going to bring in my sponge again, similar to how I did my tag, and just ink those edges real quick. Now, for some people, this is a texture issue. They don't like to ink. You can also scrape your paper directly into your ink pad like this. I really like the softness that the sponge gives onto the paper with this effect, so I typically will use the sponge, but it's a personal preference issue, so do whatever you prefer and what you like best. So we'll put this kind of right here in the center. And now we're ready to place our tag on top of this. So what I like about this card is it has a lot of layering for a small, basically a small canvas that we're working with. So we're going to layer a lot of pieces onto this one little card panel. This is a A2 size card, so it's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And it's gonna have lots of pieces on it. So let's go ahead and trim this little tag down. And one of the things I like to do with this thread here is I like to come in with my piercing tool and just pull these apart and give them a lot of character with the threads coming apart rather than just leave the two pieces hanging. I think that makes it look kind of fun. So we'll pull that apart and give it a nice curly hairdo up the top. Maybe because I have curly hair, I think that's fun. There we go. Okay, and now we're ready to assemble what I'm going to call all of my ephemera here to put the card together. So I have this pretty little heart, and I want it to go about right there. And these leaves came out of my stash. They came from, now I'm not even going to try to remember which set they came from, but I had them in my stash. I had several of them, and I really like the way they kind of pop with this paper set. So I thought I would pull them out and add them on here. And now I am going to bring in my fun foam tape. And if you know me, you know I love my foam tape. So I'm going to use the thin and the thick with this project. So here I'm going to put the thin down on this large flower, and then we'll mix up the thin and the thick with the other two flowers as well. So we'll start with the thin, and then I'm going to work my way up. Let's see, I don't think it really matters which flower is which, but up here we're going to go with the thicker. Now, if you're doing cards like this, just be aware that when you put them in the mail, you may want to be careful with the dimension and if that would require additional postage. For me, it doesn't matter. I know for some people, they don't like to have their cards have a lot of dimension. So again, it's a personal preference issue. Do what you like most, and excuse me, and that will be just fine. So I have this tiny little sentiment here that I prepared in advance, and I wanted to show you this outline piece. Came from one of my stash. It's a really old one, but it's Doodled Borders Stamp of the Month, and it's this piece right here. And then the sentiment I pulled from the Thoughtful Critters stamp set, and it's the little happy birthday. So I wanted something small because I wanted the focus to be on the card itself. So I'm going to pop that up right here in the lower right. So it's going to overlap the flowers. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a small piece of foam tape, and make sure I get it on the right side, on the side, one side here. And then I'm going to put some glue on the other side so it can overlap the flowers, and then it'll stick to the flower and still pop up over here. Perfect. Okay, so that is a real quick card demonstration for you. I hope you like that. Again, this is the Dream Maker paper packet. And let me hold that up a little bit closer so you can see some of the detail in that. The stenciling, so gorgeous with the double layering. And the paper packet, the stencil comes with the bundle. The stamp set comes in the bundle. So it is available through the end of May, and that's just a cute little card that you can throw together real quickly. And if you like that, please hit the like button. Feel free to subscribe and share if you'd like to share that with some of your other card making friends. I'd really appreciate that. And thanks for watching, and stick around. I'll try to get some more videos up soon. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Bye.